Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm RJ.
And I'm Tyler, and this is Basketball All Talk.
So, our first segment on this show, we will typically recap the week's events that leads up to today's show. Well, since this is our very first show and there's no basketball going on right now, we are going to start today's show by recapping last season's bubble performances.
I want to talk about Memphis first. Got John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. both overperformed in, this season, really. So, what's your opinions on John Morant coming in and just performing really every other rookie?
He really deserves everything coming to him. He's Memphis's franchise player for the next 15 years. They Memphis needs to do everything in their right mind to keep him happy and make sure that I don't care about Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't care about Justice Winslow. I don't care about any of those guys. As long as John Morant's happy, you're going to have a playoff team in Memphis as long as you keep John Morant happy.
I really do think that they should keep Jaren Jackson Jr. I think that should easily be their second priority compared to everything. They could get rid of the entire other team, keep Jaren Jackson Jr. and John Morant a pair. I'm pretty sure they love playing with each other. It kind of showed in the bubble performance. And then you get Justice Winslow, who is not nearly as important as the other two. That's a great young team. You got Dylan Brooks and Justin Anderson.
Yeah, I do not think they need to get. I think they do need to keep Jaren Jackson Jr. But all I was trying to say is that John Morant's John Morant is
Oh,
a
yeah,
future MVP in this league.
100%. Yes,
In 5 6 years, he's going to be in at least the top three in the MVP voting. Might be the
easy.
best point guard in the league at that time. That they need to forget if they are not making John Morant happy, that is where they need to spend all their attention.
That's they're messing up if they ain't making him happy. He's a make or break player, bro.
It's
Second team,
Go ahead.
second team. I think we should talk about Phoenix and how 8-0. Just what is your opinion on that whole situation?
My opinion is that Devin Booker has been very underappreciated. Um,
Definitely.
that no Devin Booker, this this team gets 0-8. This
Oh,
team is 0-8
easy,
in the
easy.
bubble. De-
The thing that I noticed is that Devin Booker has always played this good. He's just only getting noticed now that they went 8-0.
I
He's
think
been this good.
I think Devin Booker would shine anywhere but Phoenix.
I
Anywhere but
think he
Phoenix,
could
he
shine in
needs to.
Phoenix as long as they just get another good player that can also handle the ball instead of it also just like only being Devin Booker. I know they have Ricky Rubio, but he's he's Ricky Rubio. Let's be honest. Like
I feel bad for Devin Booker. It's a lot like going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Phoenix, you just go there to get forgotten about. Ricky Rubio had an amazing couple of years with the Utah Jazz. He fit that system perfectly. Uh,
perfect.
Complemented Donovan Mitchell very well. Then goes to Phoenix, and all of us and nobody cares anymore because Phoenix is so irrelevant. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns is such a great player, and if he was
Top
anywhere
three
else other
center.
than Minnesota, he would be an
He
MVP
would be getting
caliber.
noticed.
He
He
would
would
be an
he would be
MVP.
getting he would be getting talks as being the best center in the league. But since he's in Minnesota and they're not the bestest team, barely top three in a lot of
He is
people's
the
eyes.
best center in the league. Period. His range is crazy. His handles are really good. His
He's a
defense is
he's a
very
point guard and
underrated.
he's a point guard in a big man's body. That's all I can say.
And that's I mean, he's the Wilt Chamberlain of today's NBA. But anyway, we're back on Phoenix. I really feel bad for Devin. Phoenix needs to make a move, and they need to make a move now, or
To
else
keep Devin Booker happy, yes.
I don't even, just for Devin Booker's sake, Devin Booker needs to leave Phoenix. Just just
I think
he's an he could be an MVP caliber player. He is such a talented scorer. His defense is not the greatest, but there's a lot of people whose defense is not the greatest that have won MVPs in the recent years. Um, so Donovan Mitchell with his offensive potential could be an MVP finalist if he was anywhere but Phoenix.
yeah, I agree. I think that he could end up still being an MVP caliber player because you get players like Deandre Ayton, gonna get better. You get Kelly Oubre, the other forward for their team that I can't think of his name right
Mikal
now.
Bridges.
Mikal Bridges, thank you. Yes, he's on. They're all only going to get better, and then if they keep them together and they build the chemistry and they just learn how to play with each other, they will eventually be a above average team.
Uh,
So,
maybe DeAndre Ayton has. I've really been upset with DeAndre Ayton. He has not performed well. His bubble performance was decent, but other than that, he's really underperforming.
he's the only player that was in the top three of the draft of the Luka Doncic year, Trey Young, Shea Gilgis Alexander. Now DeAndre Ayton was number one, and he's not even doing as good as the latter three. So Trey
Well,
Young, top of his position. Luka, top of his position. Shea, top of his position. Funny how they're all guards, though. No,
well, so bottom line, Phoenix needs to make a trade this year. I'm getting sick and tired of seeing Phoenix be so horrible, even though even though they have such
they
a good
have
player in Devin Booker.
such a good player. Top of his position, but he doesn't get noticed as that because
And
he's on.
and Monty Williams, he's a talented coach. He doesn't have any achievements really. He doesn't have really big achievements, and he doesn't really coach teams deep into the playoffs. But he's had some really talented rosters, and he's had some really fun teams over the years, including including that New Orleans team that uh, very very young, but if he would have had a couple years with that team, they would have been really nasty in the Western Conference. All right,
Okay,
so
so
next up, talking about
you go.
Phoenix. Next up, talking about Phoenix. The latest the latest update on Chris Paul rumors.
Yes,
All Phoenix.
all
Phoenix is
Phoenix.
all over it.
I, he would be a great fit. He would help the team with what you said, not being the best, because you saw what he do with OKC. He's able to just make such an impact that I think for a team like Phoenix who needs like another person to change the feng shui of how the team is, he is like the best player possible to get for that team.
He knows exactly where the ball needs to go, when it needs to go there. Oklahoma City, if it was not for Chris Paul, Oklahoma City would not have made the playoffs.
They even with Chris Paul, the analysis gave him like a freaking 1.4% chance of making the playoffs, and then they were the 5 seed. It was
I
something ridiculous like that.
and they should have been the 4 seed. We had that tiebreaker against the Houston Rockets, but anyway, that's water under the bridge. Still a little salty about that, but either way, a player like Chris Paul, a player like, now obviously this is way out of, they're not even talking about this. A player like Kemba Walker, a really nice point guard that
That can get his
gives
own shot.
gives Devin Booker the opportunity to not have to worry about handling the ball.
Yes.
That that kind of player will put Phoenix not only over the hump, but right in the middle of the playoffs in the Western Conference.
With what you said about Kemba, I completely agree because that's a great idea. because you get Ricky Rubio on the team. Yes, he's a great passer, one of the best point guard passing players in the league right now. But as soon as you give it to Devin Booker, all the players know that he is the most dangerous player on the court. If you get another player like Kemba or Chris Paul on the team who can get their own shots and make their own shots, take away so much attention from Devin Booker. So much. It just makes it too easy for the opposing teams to just double team Devin Booker and then just continue on with how they're playing.
And that is the downfall of Phoenix, is just that they won't put anybody next to Devin Booker, and so everybody knows Devin Booker's the number one option. But if you have someone like Chris Paul, who, even though he's not a number one option right now, very well could be. His mid range jumper is probably the best in the league, and his three pointer
Close, if not.
his 3-pointer is
He's
still there.
he's improved that so much over the years.
So if adding someone like Chris Paul to a very young, by the way, very young Phoenix team,
Very young,
um,
except for Ricky Rubio.
that puts them over the Houston Rockets. That
Over
puts
over
them
the
over Oklahoma City. It doesn't quite put them over Denver yet, but
I wouldn't.
they're
Denver's a nice team.
they're a top
Denver's a
four,
nice team.
top five
Also
team
very
in the
young.
league if they get a player like Chris Paul.
Okay, and another trade. You already mentioned Houston just a while ago. I completely agree with you with putting them over Houston, but only if they trade one of their top players. I don't see them being better, and if they get another center, which they need, that was a horrible idea with what they did.
I can
They,
that
they're
was
not.
the worst decision in the history of basketball.
It 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 almost worked. Not really, but
No,
the bad luck that they had is they ended up going against the most talented big in the league, Anthony Davis, and he just put on a show.
I don't care if they were going up against uh, I don't know, JaVale McGee.
He was on the Lakers. They just sat on.
Yeah, JaVale McGee was on the Lakers, but if they were going up against JaVale McGee, Denver years, JaVale McGee was pretty terrible. The Rockets would have been obliterated by JaVale McGee, even in the Denver.
His athleticism is disgusting.
Just
But yeah,
a 6 foot. What is PJ Tucker? 6'8"?
he's six. No, he's not. He's like 6'7". He's like 6'7", 6'6".
That is way too small. That is way too small.
He plays with heart, and that's what they were trying to get at. But just playing against all them bigs and them bruising him, and he got exhausted. He got exhausted, and then you have to defend probably the most talented big in history, in my opinion. It's just he can shoot better than pretty much every other big. He has the size, athleticism, speed, strength. He has literally everything that you could want in a player in his bag.
That goes back to what we were talking about with Karl Anthony Towns. He's pretty much Karl Anthony Towns, but he's on the Lakers, so he's noticed.
He's a Karl Anthony Towns, but a significantly better defender. I'd say he's stronger, and
I don't know about that. I wouldn't say significantly better.
He's definitely a significantly better defender. He should have won Defensive Player of the Year, but that's neither here nor there. So,
well,
okay.
Houston. Let's kind of try to tie it back into last season's bubble performance. Houston's small ball experiment obviously failed, but
they were trying to help Westbrook because Westbrook's not, as we all know, not a talented shooter. He's a great finisher at the rim. So they were trying to just open up the paint for Westbrook, and having Clint Capella kind of does not help that at all. Like, none. He's probably one of the least talented shooting bigs. It's just...
I think what the Houston Rockets proved in this experiment is that the big man in the NBA is so underappreciated. They could not, their ball movement. It's funny how small ball lineups are supposed to help ball movement out tremendously, but their interior ball movement was so bad that all their ball movement was to the outside, and
That's what they always kind
it's
of
nowhere.
prepare for anyway. They always like to shoot the threes. So I think it actually might have helped with that, getting even more threes and even more misses than before. So if that's what they were going for, then they succeeded. The only
They
thing
did a good
is
job of
they
that.
did a great job with that one. Yeah, uh, it's just if they had in my opinion, if they had a player like Miles Turner and Enes Kanter, that would have been a great fit for their center. They shouldn't have just got rid of a center. They should have traded Clint Capella for someone like Miles Turner or Enes Kanter or another good shooting big man. That's what they
Yeah,
needed.
it's not. I don't think it was the center that was the problem. It was just the centers that they had. Clint
The center
Capella is
plays
very athletic, a very
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 talented. He's
very nice player, but it just
for their play style of Houston. He was not a good fit.
the the
Houston's
Mike Dan
shooting
the Mike D'Antoni style of shoot as much
7 seconds
threes
or
as
less.
you can.
7 seconds or less. Mike D'Antoni
That just it just
did
didn't.
not fit.
And then your backup is Tyson Chandler,
Or they didn't even play in the bubble. By the
who is
way,
the same
they didn't
thing
even
except
play.
he's 100 years old now. So
Yeah, he's literally Santa Claus now. So I mean,
so
yeah,
the
old.
the Houston Rockets um, Houston Rockets need a big man. They just need a shooting big man.
They need at least an average shooting big man. I think if they were going to trade Westbrook to a place, which is also a rumor, I think a great team, which they need to get more out of it than just him, but they should trade him to Miles Turner, some picks, and like maybe another player. Miles Turner would be a great fit for that team. Miles Turner, his shooting ability, and plus he adds defense to a team that's not the best defensive team.
The Houston Rockets are pretty bad defensively, and Miles Turner is a big step up on the defensive end compared to Clint
Definitely.
Capella or Tyson Chandler.
Tyson
I
Chandler's just too old now.
I kind of I don't like that move at all. I don't like Miles Turner going to Houston. There's really nobody. Houston's messed up. Houston is
They need.
all
I
sorts of
think they
messed
should
up.
just explode. But they need if they're going to trade Westbrook, and not because they said they don't want to explode. They want to try to keep James Harden and continue on with the playoff contention. And just if they were gonna get someone that would help the team, I would get someone like Miles Turner. But in my opinion, they should just blow it up. They should trade James Harden and Russell Westbrook, not together. They should trade James Harden for picks and a young player from somewhere. Same thing with Russell Westbrook. And as long as they can get decent picks from teams that aren't decent, they would be in a good way. They would be in a good way. They would be one of the worst teams in the league, though.
I the Houston Rockets have messed up so bad just because they have a top two. Yeah, yeah. I'm not even going to argue with that. They have a top two point guard in the league in Russell Westbrook, and they have the best
I
shooting
wouldn't go
guard,
that far.
and they have the
I
best
wouldn't go that
shooting guard in the league at James Harden, and
far.
to have those two MVP players, by the way, and barely squeak out a win against the LA Lakers. Going back to the bubble performances, a super disappointing performance from the Rockets. Not on the fault of the players,
Oh
just
yeah, no, not at all. Just on
their
the build, the build.
that front office has utterly destroyed that team. Um,
Sadly,
Houston needs to go just rebuild completely. Get rid of James Harden. Get rid of Russell Westbrook. Get rid of all their key players and try to build with a center this next time. Maybe
or at least get someone who can shoot if you want to keep Mike D'Antoni.
other than uh, other than James Harden, obviously.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. James Harden is just he was he I don't think he would mesh well with another person, as we saw actually, that needs the ball in his hand. Russell
Yeah,
Westbrook is one of the players that needs the ball in his hand. He's not a good off ball player. He's a great on ball player. Off ball, he's faulty. He's not. And then you
That's
just
why
get James Harden in the mix, who has the highest usage rate in history. It's like not even close, actually. It's just not a good combination.
that's why Chris Paul. That's why the Chris Paul experiment in Houston worked so well. I don't
Because Chris
know.
Paul's a great offensive
I don't
or
know what
off-ball player.
Houston. I don't know what Houston was thinking getting rid of Chris Paul, but
They
hey,
don't. I don't think they wanted his contract, but then they got like another contract that's almost as big. I
Russell's
don't know.
contract is just as big as Chris Paul's, so I that front office is just a disaster. But to finish out the recaps of last season's bubbles, Houston Rockets super disappointing. The Houston Rockets should have contended with Russell Westbrook and James Harden with that
If they
talent.
wouldn't, they would have had a center there. I think they would have. To continue on with the disappointments, though, you know what team we have to talk about? The most disappointing team in the bubble by far, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Not even
What happened?
not even a contest.
Not even a contest. What happened? Number one team in the league has the MVP and the DPOY. What happened?
I'll tell you what happened. Who else do they have besides Chris Middleton?
Chris
Nobody.
Middleton. They have
They have nobody.
they have players like Splash Mountain. He's one of the better shooting Brook Lopez. God, I thought of his name. Yay. They have him. They had a contention for the best the sixth man of the year in George Hill. They had okay, yeah, that's pretty much it.
George Hill's really old.
George Hill was still had like the
Eric
highest
Bledsoe's getting old.
Oh, Eric Bledsoe,
Brook
yeah, he was their
Lopez
starting.
Is getting old. Robin Lopez.
They should. They didn't even really play Robin Lopez. Actually, I think Robin Lopez was on the Clippers. Remember, they signed him in free agency. I think the Clippers did.
Robin Lopez played for the Milwaukee Bucks last season.
Maybe at the beginning, not towards the end though, because I remember he got signed to the Clippers.
I don't think so, but what mattered? He didn't play no matter where he's at.
No matter what team he didn't play. They shouldn't have. In my opinion, they shouldn't have got rid of They shouldn't have got rid of the one guy who went to the Pacers. Malcolm Brogdon. They shouldn't have got rid of him. He would have been the way he performed in the 2017 or 18 playoffs or something like that. He was easily better than Bledsoe. Not on the defensive side, but you got Giannis on your team. Like you don't. I mean,
if they could have even played Bledsoe and Brogdon together, and that still
they could have
been
played Brogdon at 2 or vice versa. It's like
because were they starting DiVincenzo?
They were starting Dante DiVincenzo at 2, and they had Bledsoe at 1, and then they had Chris Middleton, and then they had Giannis, and then Brook Lopez.
Even starting Malcolm Brogdon.
Or they were using Wesley Matthews sometimes too. Wesley Matthews. They started him at 2 sometimes. But he played really good in the bubble, actually. He played really good this season. And actually, mostly in the bubble and in the playoffs. But he played pretty decent. I think he played better than DiVincenzo, but DiVincenzo's young.
So what I'm getting at is all the role players. I mean, besides Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo, even Brook Lopez, who used to be a star in the league, by the way.
He's still, like, he averaged, I think, in the playoffs, he averaged, like, 16.
Still, he is a role player on that team. He is not a star. He's not an offensive powerhouse like he used to be, and he's slow on defense. So
the thing
Giannis just doesn't have any help.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. The thing with the Clippers or the Milwaukee Bucks is they have 2 players. Most of the time, it takes 3 players to win a championship, except for this year because this year was kind of weird. You look at the Golden State Warriors, who had 4, but 3 is there. You get the Miami Heat, the Lakers.
The Cleveland Cavaliers.
Not this Lakers. The Cleveland Cavaliers kind of had 3, but not in the same way as the other teams that I mentioned.
Don't be hating on Kevin Love. Kevin
Love's not as good as the third best player on any of the teams that I mentioned, though. That's what I was trying to say. Right. And Kyrie's not as good.
Better than Draymond Green.
Not whenever he played in Cleveland.
Yeah,
Draymond Draymond, no. Draymond in his prime. Okay, listen, Draymond Green, whenever he played in the championship years, whenever they won the championship, he's better than Kevin Love in Cleveland. But if we're talking about prime, obviously Kevin Love's better. Anyways, then you get like the players with two good players that's won championships, like the Lakers, and then or the players that also contended were the Clippers, which another underperforming team. But you get the Lakers, who have LeBron James, arguably the best player in the league, Anthony Davis, who's the best big man in the league. Then you get like the Milwaukee Bucks, who have Giannis, the MVP, and then you get the second best player, who's not nearly on the level of any of the second best players on any teams. It's like, so you get the best player in the league, arguably, and then you get somebody who's significantly far down on the second best player on teams that are actually contending.
I hate to hate on Chris Middleton, because Chris
Chris
Middleton is
Middleton, I like.
so talented. He's
He has
a
a great
really
game,
gifted scorer. He just
great game.
he just can't do it. He just, he just can't. He can't be that second. He can't be a Scottie Pippen. He
No,
cannot be a Scottie Pippen.
he doesn't have that. He doesn't have the assets to be able to be a Scottie Pippen. He's not a good shot creator. If he was, he would be able to be a Scottie Pippen, but can't create shots. I mean, he needs someone to do it
Chris
for him.
Middleton
I mean, he
is
can.
a Steve Kerr. He needs to stand out there behind the 3-point line and wait for Giannis and a second option to get doubled, and then
Yeah,
just dish it out to
he would
Chris
be
Middleton.
one of the best third options in history, behind players like Draymond Green. And wait, Draymond Green's not a second option, by the way. He's a third option. Anyways, uh, he would be behind players like Draymond Green.
Offensively, I don't think Draymond Green's ever been that high of an option.
No, but his
Even
defense
this
is just
last, even this last season,
this last season. He was bad.
I still don't
He
think
was
Draymond Green
so
was.
bad. He
Draymond
averaged like
Green, Draymond
2
Green's
points per game.
offensive ability is so sad.
He's like
He's
another
easily the
player.
most overrated player in the league. Easily.
One of. He's not the most. He's one of. He's another like Andre Roberson. Andre Roberson, one of the best defensive players in the league, but his offensive game is just miserable to watch. It's so sad. It's like
For those
I
of
think
you not watching, for those of you watching, Tyler loves to hate on Andre Roberson. I'm a big Thunder fan,
I
and
dislike Andre Roberson's game.
him and I argue about Andre Roberson pretty much on a weekly.
For some of you guys watching and listening, RJ thinks at one point in time Andre Roberson was the best perimeter defender in the league.
He was.
And it's just sure.
Oklahoma City went on a 17-game win streak before he got injured.
Does not mean he's the best.
And OK3 was pretty terrible with Carmelo Anthony. So, big rabbit trail. Milwaukee Bucks, terrible bubble performance. They need to make a move this offseason.
Definitely. If they don't sign Giannis, they're over. I honestly, if it was me and I'm kind of stealing this, and I'm gonna give him a shout out, even though he probably ain't ever gonna watch this. KOT4Q, he's a YouTuber. I watch a lot of his kind of similar things as what we're doing. He said he has an idea that what Giannis should do is he should sign a 1-year deal. 1-year deal right now, and tell them, if you do not make significant enough changes to make us a better contender, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. And if they do make a significant change, sign the Supermax.
Yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo is somebody you can build a dynasty around.
He's a perennial all-star. He has the chance to be the greatest un-American player in history.
He's one of those players where, so I'm looking at a player like Karl Anthony Towns. I would Like offensively, all around, I would with the shooting ability of Karl Anthony Towns and the fact that he's not much taller, but taller. I would take Karl Anthony Towns in a heartbeat over Giannis. But if you switch Giannis and Karl Anthony Towns, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves make the playoffs.
It's
Giannis is just one of those players that he will always be in the playoffs.
he will always make your team better.
Giannis is a winner.
He's that's all he is, and it hurts. I'm not like the biggest fan of Giannis, but I really like to watch. He's so much fun to watch. He's a fun player to watch. He has a great personality. He's an amazing player, and then he's also been getting taught by Kyle Korver, one of the greatest shooters in history, how to shoot. If he gets at least an average 3-point shot with consistency, he's going to be disgusting. It's horrible. Like, it baffles me how good he is already without being able to shoot.
If he had a shot, if he had a 3-point shot, Giannis Antetokounmpo could eclipse and well surpass LeBron James
And Michael Jordan.
and Michael Jordan.
If he gets a shot and is able to hit it consistently, he's a threat to everyone's legacy.
But here we are. Like, I don't know how long Giannis has been in Milwaukee, but it's been a while, and he's still we've been talking about him getting a shot for 8 years now, and
he's also never had someone who's as good of a shooter as Kyle Korver teaching him, though.
It's still not there. I mean, even last season, he still didn't have a shot last season.
He was significantly better last season than his other seasons, though. He still was not good, but he was getting it more consistently. And I think what's happening is he is getting to the point where he's getting more comfortable shooting threes, and that's starting to scare other teams. So they've actually been kind of guarding him on the perimeter a little bit more, and that kind of opened up more for the team to do.
If they had a team.
Yeah, I mean, if you get George Hill open on the perimeter, he can knock it down. He had the highest percentage.
They need somebody. They need
a better second option, or at least a third option that's as good as Chris Middleton. they need at least a better second option than Chris Middleton, or another option that's as good or barely less than Chris Middleton to even be significantly better.
There's a handful of teams in the league I can think of that do not need a Chris Paul right now. The Bucks are not one of them. If you put Chris Paul on the Milwaukee Bucks, they beat the Miami Heat easily.
Pretty much any team with a top 15 point guard, at least young ones, not older point guard, do not need a Chris Paul. Teams like the Atlanta Hawks don't need a Chris Paul. They have Trae Young. They do not need anything getting taken away from Trae Young. Teams like the Memphis Grizzlies, already mentioned them. Right. They do not need a Chris Paul. Other teams like the
Warriors,
the Wolves,
Chris Paul.
The Warriors definitely don't need a Chris Paul. They don't need anything. They're fine. Leave them alone. they're already really good.
It makes me sad that they're about to take over again.
Again, they have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson's coming back.
Especially if they don't mess up this draft.
If they get Draymond Green to start mentoring Wiggs on the defensive end, and then they just get like Klay Thompson to help them on the offensive, Wiggs might be great, like everybody thought he was going to be. He's already insanely athletic.
If this year's draft goes as everybody's thinking it should, James Wiseman is theirs to take.
Oh yeah, easily. And then they needed a center. And if they get James Wiseman and he performs to the level of other centers who come in and performed well in the rookie year, wow.
The Warriors would be better then than they were when Kevin Durant went to Golden State.
I wouldn't go that far, but they would definitely be pretty good. Kevin Durant was at the time a top 2 player. So
well, yeah, but also they didn't have a big man though. They had Zaza.
Yeah, but I would
Zaza
choose
was
yeah,
not
Zaza was horrible. I would choose Kevin Durant over Wiggs and James Wiseman all day, every day, especially the way he played before he got there. He is, in my opinion, a lot of people aren't going to agree with this because they don't like Kevin Durant like someone, but he is the second best small forward in history. It's my opinion. I just think his
the
shooting
top
ability, his size,
scoring small forward.
he's
Top.
in my opinion, he's the best scorer period of all time, and he's the best scoring small forward. But just all around, he's not the best small forward, but he's the second best.
Yeah, I just had to
In
point
my
that out. Scoring wise, Kevin Durant is better than everybody.
better than everybody. It's like kind of close with like players like Kobe, maybe. But Kevin Durant's a significantly better shooter, in my opinion. That 3-point shot that he has is beautiful.
And
It's
the fact
just
that he's 6 inches
6'11".
taller than Kobe.
6'11". That's like what? It's like what? How can you be this tall and also be one of the best shooters in history?
And
I don't know.
so we got on that big rabbit trail talking about underperformances in the bubble.
We didn't even mention
the LA
that's where
Clippers were ridiculous.
everyone. Did you know almost all the analysis had him or them winning in the Milwaukee Bucks in the finals with the Clippers? They had the Lakers like third or fourth. Yeah.
The second Oklahoma City got rid of Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis for Paul George, I tried to tell everybody. Nobody would listen to me. I tried to tell people Paul George way overrated. Not way overrated. He is overrated. Period.
He's overrated in the playoffs. Regular season, he's definitely he deserves all of the credit he gets in the regular season. But when it comes to playoff time,
I don't know what it is about Paul George not being able to hit shots in the playoffs. I don't understand.
The only like it's just crazy that like that team, the OKC team that lost to Portland. How? I mean, I know Dame's better than Westbrook, but Paul George is significant. Paul George is significantly better than CJ McCollum.
Damian Lillard better than Russell Westbrook. Did you really just say that?
That's neither here nor there, but he is, yes. It's just that Portland team was not as good as OKC.
No, not at all.
Especially on paper, but the way they performed and the way Westbrook and Paul George didn't perform to the level they did, Paul George is the mainly the reason. But he did that shot that Dame hit. That was some good defense. You got to be honest. That was it's just Dame
is a curse. Paul George is a curse. He just can't close out in the playoffs. I don't understand. Oklahoma City should have had Utah in the OK 3 years. Paul George and Carmelo Anthony had big choking sessions in that first round. Oklahoma City should have taken Portland a couple years ago. Paul George had another big. The LA Clippers could have, with how good of a shooter Paul George is in the regular season, the Clipper and the defensive talent of Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George, and Montrezl Harrell, they could have and should have beat the Lakers. They could have and should have with how crazy.
But Montrezl Harrell and Paul George underperformed, and Patrick Beverley is just offensively not there. So
he's a scrub.
He's good offense or defense, but he was not offensively there.
Nobody was offensively there other than Kawhi
Williams after he got
Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet is the one player that I really appreciate on the LA Clippers.
Kawhi tried, bro.
Well, Kawhi is an obvious. Other than Kawhi, I really think the Clippers need to hold on to Landry Shamet as long as possible.
And okay, so now that we got done with all the underperforming, because those were really the only teams that kind of underperformed: the Houston, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Clippers. We got to talk about teams that like what were the really surprisingly entertaining teams to watch. I know you're not a big fan of watching a lot of other teams, but I watched every game of the Boston Celtics Toronto Raptors games. Those were some of the best games that I've ever watched.
The Boston Celtics are
Boston Celtics
they
are
have a
going to
winner.
be
Jason
Jason Tatum,
Tatum's a winner.
Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. That team is so except for Kemba. That team is so young. Man, I stay together. They have a chance of being a champion soon.
I don't
Soon,
I don't
very
know
soon.
how they lost to Miami. I don't know how Miami did so good. But
Freaking Kyle Lowry making every shot
next
in existence.
next next season, the season after that, the Boston Celtics with obstacles like the Brooklyn Nets in the way, the Boston Celtics
Brooklyn's going to be
could
scary.
be favorites. I mean,
Yep.
it's not
If you
outlandish to
honest,
say that the Boston Celtics could beat the Brooklyn Nets. That's not too outlandish.
if JT continuously gets better like what he has been, and same with Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown, I honestly think it's more possible unless Brooklyn gets another star player. There's always the rumors about Bradley Beal going there. Bradley Beal would be terrific, but they need a defensive player if they're going to get another guard with Kyrie. Actually,
Yeah.
Bradley Beal might be pretty nice, but if it was me, I would go after a player like Victor Oladipo.
I hope Kyrie can prove himself.
I
He
really do too. He has been injury
that
prone.
that little stunt in Boston was really sad.
Yeah,
I
everybody
hated
had
to see how bad Boston utilized him, or how underutilized he was in Boston. All
I
right,
don't.
so to recap, the Lakers were the clear cut favorites. Uh, they should
As
have
soon as
won. They
Milwaukee
didn't.
and the Clippers, as soon as Milwaukee and the Clippers got eliminated, everybody had all their money on the Lakers.
So now today, this morning actually, 11:30, 10:30, not 11:30, 11:30 Eastern time, 10:30 Central time. Um, Dennis Schroeder, Dennis Schroeder reported by Woj getting recruited by
Well,
the LA Lakers. Um,
man, man,
I mean, to cap off a championship team to get better.
wasn't he the sixth man of the year?
No, he should have been, but he
Who
wasn't.
was?
Somebody on the Clippers. It was
Oh,
either Luke
Montrezl Harrell. Yes, yes,
Montrezl.
Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah,
Yep, I remember that now. Yeah, he was
I kind of
okay. He
got
was a top 5 six man of the year voting.
I
You
kind of
get a
got
player
mad
like
at
that,
that the Clippers had two 6 men of the year
candidates. Yeah,
candidates.
I don't. I think it's because they have to play like at least half the season or whatever as like six man or something like that. And I think since it was more than half of the actual season, I don't know how it worked. I have no idea. But you get if they can keep, I don't think they will, but if they can keep Rondo, that team might go back to back.
They will go back to back if the
Well,
Golden State if the
it
Golden
all depends
State
on Golden State.
Warriors if the Golden State Warriors, if Steph Curry has a hard time coming back, if Klay Thompson has a
Same with
hard time
Clay.
coming back,
If Draymond Green plays just as bad as he did this season, he was
then
horrible. It was so hard to watch the Golden
but
State Warriors.
even with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson coming back, I still like the Lakers with Schroeder over the Golden State Warriors.
And it doesn't look like LeBron's declining anytime soon. So, and Anthony Davis will be Anthony Davis.
And
Should the defensive player of the year, I don't know how he wasn't. I'm going to keep mentioning that because it was just baffling.
So just to make clear, trades cannot be final until tomorrow at noon. But
Yes.
from what Woj is telling us and from what ESPN keeps saying, both teams have already agreed to this trade. That sends
Pretty much did a virtual handshake.
Dennis Schroeder to the Lakers for Danny Green and the 28th pick in the draft.
Which the
on
Lakers don't need.
on paper, the Lakers obviously win the trade, but in real life, being a Thunder fan since they moved here,
Yeah.
uh, Danny Green, if Danny Green fills a shooting hole that Oklahoma City has never been able to fill, even when they had Kevin Durant, who was the best shooter in the league, they did not have, even with James Harden. Since James Harden, they have not had an elite shooter at the two guard spot. If Danny Green can not perform like he did in the finals last year, and
I want to talk
then
about that.
that is, I think both teams could end up winning this trade, because not only will the Lakers have a repeat next year, but now Oklahoma City is more rounded instead of having three star point guards.
And then you get a better, significantly better shooter than Dort, who also was a surprisingly good player in the bubble. He did really good. He's just another really good defensive player that can't shoot, like aforementioned name. Uh, but
Yeah, poor LeBron.
uh, um, okay, we actually I'm going to mention one of them. I need to mention the game against the Nuggets, where Anthony Davis like got his reinvigorated heel injury, and LeBron made like 12 3-point shots. Not actually that many, but he made so many. He just kept stepping into them and just splashing. I'm just sitting watching the game like normal, and then all of a sudden I'm like watching it like that's like his 6 3-pointer in a row. What's going on? How is this possible? And just and then the Anthony Davis making the game winner, which just I think that completely demoralized the Nuggets. Any chance that they thought they had just went down the drain. It, and then also got to talk about the Miami Heat. They took 2 games. One of them was without their second best player.
They should not have taken 2 games. um, I do have to say I'm impressed with Goran Dragic. I I I never once again, starting out in Phoenix. Phoenix is the place where people go to get underappreciated. Goran Dragic was a big reason why the Miami Heat took 2 games. Well, kind of, but the reason they made it to the finals anyway.
Oh, I would say he's the big reason that they made it to the finals. Is I would say because he got injured for most of the finals,
Right.
and so, but okay, we were already on the subject of surprising teams. I think we should talk about some surprising players during the bubble. First player on the list that everybody should know, Bubble MJ, TJ Warren. That man, 50 points per game. Like, what? Through what? How many games was it for the?
It was
For like
quite a few.
three games in a row, he averaged he was like 50 points per game. It was like, what?
Well,
how is a person that I've barely even know anything about averaging like
with Victor
40 to 50
Oladipo, with Victor Oladipo's injury, he's never been able to recover from that.
Not yet. I'm
And
hoping that he can get better now.
Miles Turner isn't like a offensive star by any means. So, I mean, they needed offense from somewhere. And TJ Warren's actually got a nice 3-point shot, and so that doesn't surprise me. I mean, obviously, yes, I'm surprised at how well he did, but it doesn't surprise me that TJ Warren stepped up. It does surprise me how much he stepped up, but it doesn't surprise me that somebody like TJ Warren stepped up with Miles Turner being their star. not being an
Sabonis.
offensive
The
guy.
All-Star Sabonis? What are you talking about? His star. The All-Star Sabonis. DeMontis,
Uh,
bro.
yeah, mm, I nobody puts Domantas Sabonis on the same pedestal as Miles Turner or Victor Oladipo. Not yet. Not yet.
DeMontis was literally an All-Star this season.
Oladipo would have been if he wasn't injured.
But that's what I'm trying to say. Like he's better than Miles Turner
But
offensively, not defensively.
offensively, yes. Offensively, yes. But if you're gonna start, if you have a choice to start Demonis Sabonis or Miles Turner, I'm starting Miles Turner in a heartbeat.
I'd have to disagree with you. I'd pick Sabonis.
I'm
I
going with
really would.
experience and defense.
I'm going with potential and offense because offense wins games. Let's be honest. Offense wins games.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, who's a better defensive team, the Utah Jazz or the Nuggets? Right? You know what I'm trying to say, though? Yeah, the Nuggets are a significantly better offensive team. Or not significant. I'm going to say they're a better offensive team. But the Jazz are a significantly better defensive team. And who won that? You know, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say significantly better. They have Rudy Gobert, but
they have Rudy Gobert, who was a top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year. Donovan Mitchell's a better defensive player than Mr. Freaking 30 points per game in the conference finals. What's his name?
I don't know who you're trying to think of.
You know what? You know who I'm thinking of?
Jamal Murray.
There's Jamal Murray. Thank you. Yeah, he's a better defensive player than Jamal Murray. And then Jamal Murray's a better offensive player. And then obviously Rudy Gobert's a better defensive player than Jokic. Like easy.
I just wouldn't say significant. You use that word significantly. I would never go that far. I would never go that far. All right, so we're kind of crunching in here. We talked a little bit about Dennis Schroeder to the Lakers.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about Chris Paul. I want to talk a little bit about Russell Westbrook's trade rumors.
Yes.
We've already talked a lot about the dumpster fire that is the Houston Rockets. The Rockets need to trade Russell.
I've heard
you know, I'm
a
huge Russell fan, but they just need to unload everybody. Start over.
I heard rumors that he could be going to the Clippers, and that's because Kawhi said he wants another primary ball handler and a point guard. And I think I don't know if Russ would be that guy. I think Russ might be taking away too much from a person who needs the ball more, especially if he's going to actually play good, Paul George. And then I think Russ would try to take too much away from Kawhi because I think he might think he's better than Kawhi, which he's not.
The Russ Paul George experiment did not work, and
exactly.
I think a huge problem.
I don't know though.
A huge problem with Russell Westbrook. Say that again.
I said Kawhi's significantly better than Melo. I know they had a year without Melo because they released him or something like that, but
Russ, here's the deal with Russell Westbrook. He needs shooters around him. You can't put Russell Westbrook in a system and expect it to immediately go up. Russell Westbrook's one of those players where you have to put Russell in and build around him. Russell Westbrook is not one of those players that can jump into a already working system and
might ruin it. That's how everybody is.
Just like he did with Houston.
Houston was already in the conference finals, weren't they? In
Houston
last year,
had a system that worked, and well, I mean, it didn't get them as far as they wanted, obviously, but it worked.
They should have beat the Warriors 2 years ago if Chris Paul wouldn't have got injured.
So, and I'm a huge fan of Russell Westbrook. He's my guy, but you have to start with Russell Westbrook and build around him. You can't put him in the middle, and that's why I think a team like the New York Knicks or a team like Somebody like the well, no, because they have De'Aaron.
No, they have
They
De'Aaron
have
Fox.
De'Aaron Fox, so they don't need De'Aaron Fox is a big upgrade, or Russell Westbrook is a big upgrade to
for
De'Aaron
now.
Fox.
For now,
Russell
De'Aaron
West,
Fox will be better than Westbrook at
Russell
one point.
Westbrook
Not all.
is way better than De'Aaron Fox. But um, but somebody like the Knicks, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I I just can't think right now. But somebody like the
Uh,
Knicks who don't have a star point guard, um, who don't have
the
anybody. The Knicks don't have anybody other
Knicks, yeah,
than Mitchell
they have
Robinson.
Mitchell.
Yeah,
Mitchell Robinson's my guy, but if he was on, I want to see him go to a team with a not so good center, which the first team that I could think of was Golden State. He would be a terrific fit for Golden State.
but if
A
Golden State
lob
takes
threat.
James Wiseman in this draft, they won't even need him.
James Wiseman has a chance of being better than Mitchell Robinson, but Mitchell Robinson's only like on his third year,
I think,
second year.
I my opinion, if I'm the Golden State Warriors, I take James Wiseman, and I go with the youth, and and the fact that I don't have to pay him as much. Mitchell Robinson's going to be asking for a lot of money when he's a
Oh yeah,
free
he
agent.
deserves a lot of money though. So
But if you can milk James Wiseman for a few years on a rookie contract, I take that any day of the week. All
okay,
right, so we're
so
winding down. We talked about Russell trade rumors a little bit. We talked a little bit about Chris Paul, but not a lot. Let's finish out the last few minutes talking about the NBA draft.
oh yeah, that's a big part coming up. Like 3 days, I think. It's 3 days.
Oklahoma City now has the 25th pick and the 28th pick if that trade goes through with the Lakers. Um, uh, they I don't know what they're thinking. They I think they
If they can get
I'm
a steal, that a really good young steal in that would be nice. That would be
I'm
good because they're trying.
assuming that they pair those up, trade up in the draft is just my assumption. Sam Presti's always been really talented at getting young athletic guys like Diallo, Ferguson. Now I don't like Ferguson at all, but
Ferguson was
he's
he
super
was
athletic.
at the time. He
He's
was at
super
the time. He
athletic.
was a higher rated than what he's performed. But I'm not too savvy on college, but I know that the number one pick is almost guaranteed to LaMelo Ball, and
LaMelo
then number
Ball,
two
James Wiseman
is
is
James
a
Wiseman,
slam dunk.
and then the third is going to be I can never
Anthony
remember.
Edwards.
Yeah, him. And then there's one dude that has a hard name to pronounce. He's like supposed to be top five. And I
Are you
think the
thinking of
Bulls have four.
Okongwu? Are you thinking of
Yeah.
Okongwu?
Isn't he supposed to be top five or something?
Yeah,
I'm not, like I said, I'm
he's
not
up
too
there.
savvy.
Also,
I know the Bulls have
another
the
name,
fourth.
Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin's a really big.
I know that name. Yes, I know the name. Yes.
This is going to be a really nice draft class,
It's not
and
going to be nearly as good as last year's, though. That's all. It's not going
no,
to be near,
last year's
not
draft
even
class,
close.
the
It's
greatest basketball
disgusting.
player of all time, Zion Williamson, in last year's draft class.
He has a chance of being good. I don't even think he's going to be better than Ja, in my opinion. I think he's going to be because he weighs so much and he relies a lot on his athleticism. He's going to be injury prone throughout his career
If
unless he loses weight. But then that's going to take away a lot of his game. You know what I mean?
if if the Pelicans can get some shooters around him, he's going to lead them to so many championships that he won't have enough fingers for rings.
He's not going to be Bill Russell, trust me.
All right, so
But
the draft is the 18th, guys. I encourage everybody, please watch it. It's Wednesday. We'll talk more about the draft on our next show on Thursday.
yes,
So on Thursday, we'll talk a lot about the NBA draft. We'll talk about who we think won and lost, and hopefully we'll be getting some trades in before too long. So
yeah,
thank you guys for watching and tuning in, and thank you guys for listening on the podcast. We will definitely get things worked out. This being our first show, we appreciate you listening, and until next time, have a good week.
yep. See you guys later.